Dr. John Demartini has studied human behavior for over 4 decades, and after seeing thousands of clients, he believes our entire happiness and success boils down to living a life truly aligned with our values. We all have values, but Demartini says the secret is to work out the highest and truest on your list and use them to structure your life. It sounds simple, as we ought to know what is important to us in life. Well, he is with me in studio to expand on this. John, I've done the value determination process about 3 times. The first at your breakthrough experience and 2 times online in the space of a few months each time. And the results were all the same. So I appreciate what you have to offer and understand, but for the sake of people who have not done this process, please tell us what you mean when you say we all live by a set of values.
Well, every human being has a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most important to least important that they live their life by. They may not be conscious of what they are, but they're still doing it.
Sure.
Every decision they make is based on what they believe at any moment will give them the greatest advantage over disadvantage, greatest reward over risk. And we're a reward risk assessing brain. We have that in our brain based on what we value most. Those values are changing as we migrate through life. And when you're a young boy, you may want to play. When you're a teenager, you may want to socialize. When you're 20 to 30s, you may want to have a mate and start a career. Mm-hmm. You know, each decade it may evolve. But whatever it is at that moment, that's what we value most. Assessing what that is crucial to maximizing our potential in life, because whenever we set goals that are highest on our value, we have the highest probability of achieving them.
Yeah.
And if we set goals that are lower on our values, we have a lower probability. And the reason why we set goals that are lower in our values are primarily trying to please other people, trying to be somebody we're not, lose our authenticity.
Yeah.
Anytime we minimize ourselves to somebody else and look and put them on a pedestal, we tend to infiltrate our value system with theirs. And we cloud the clarity of what's most important to us. And then we try to be somebody we're not, only to eventually have to learn to discover who we really are.
Yeah.
And being willing to live by priority is the key. I say that if you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, your life fills up with low priority distractions that don't. One builds self-worth and confidence and achievement and awakens natural leadership. And the other one erodes it and creates just the opposite.
Sure. When I first encountered this concept during my chats with you, what came to my mind when you were speaking about values were like moral values, social values, like, okay, I have a high value on integrity, I have a high value in making a difference in what I do. And when you mentioned the highest value, I related that to the vision, the purpose, but in the form of maybe a statement of the vision of my life. So please expand to us by sharing your highest value. Expand a little more for people that really can't grasp this as I didn't the first time, as to what you're referring to when you say your highest value and the different values, and explain the hierarchy of values and how that relates to the structure of our life.
Yeah. Because we all have a unique set of values, a hierarchy of values, called the value structure by some writers, whatever's highest on our value is an intrinsic value that we are spontaneously inspired to act on from within. And as we go down the list of values, they become more and more extrinsic and require more and more motivation to get us to do it. So something that's really low, like I use the example of the young boy who loves his video games. He is spontaneously inspired to do his video games, can do it all the way until you say, it's time to go to bed. But what's low on his values is chores, his schoolwork, things of this.
So his highest value is video games at that point in his life.
At that stage.
Yeah.
Only at that stage, though, unless that's his specialty later. But if whatever's low on his values, you'll have to incentivize him to do it, right? If you don't do it, I'm going to punish you. If you do it, I'm going to give you this reward.
Sure.
And so anytime you need motivation, you're doing something that's not intrinsically valuable to you. It's an extrinsic value. And I always say motivation is always a symptom of not caring about people and communicating in their highest values, in companies or in governments even. So we are going to need an external stimulus constantly to keep us doing the things that are low on our values, but we are spontaneously, intrinsically called, it's called the calling in theology, the call to do the thing that's highest. The highest value was known, even in the ancient Greeks, how important it was. And they called it the telos, which meant the end in mind, the final cause, the primary objective. Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, called it the chief aim. And finding out what that highest one is and structuring your life around that is the key to greatest achievements.
Sure.
Because that is the purpose. That is the most meaningful thing. The ancients knew that telos was so important that they made a whole study of it called teleology. And the study of teleology is a study of meaning and purpose. And so the most meaningful thing, the most inspiring thing, the most fulfilling thing we can do is to pursue and fulfill our highest value, or telos. Our brain is a telos-seeking and fulfilling organ. It's doing everything it can neuroplastically to maximize the fulfillment of that telos, that highest value. So if you're setting goals, if you know what that is and determine what that is and start setting goals accordingly, you immediately will have more achievement, more accomplishment, more self-worth, more expanded vision, more accomplishment in your life than if you don't. And this is where in the Breakthrough Experience program that I teach around the world, that's one of the primary things that I do in that program, because helping people find that out, they don't need motivation. I don't need motivation to do what I do today. I haven't needed motivation for 45 years to do researching and teaching.
Sure.
But I would need motivation to clean and cook and do domestic things and things like that, which I delegate. Wisdom is not doing low priority things, but to learn how to structure your life to be rewarded doing what you love, so you don't have a vocation-vacation split. You're doing what you love to do. You're getting paid to do that, so you can then afford to delegate lower priority things, so you can live an inspired life instead of having to weigh yourself down on things that self-depreciate. Because your self-worth will go down every time you do lower priority things, and your self-worth goes up every time you do the highest priority things. So that's crucial to determine what that value is. That's why I put the value determination process together.
And I find it quite fascinating, you know, having done that process, gone through that process 3 times to get the same results, etc. But what was fascinating for me, John, is actually coming to terms with the results of that, okay? Because sometimes you have a fantasy of where you would want to be, and when you actually look at that list, it does not project that. It shows where you are. So how does that help you to actually move forward? I know it's helped me, but I'm asking you this question for the benefit of others.
It takes out the fantasy and puts in the reality. That's important. Let me give you an example. I was here at the Success Summit a few years back, speaking to, I guess, about 5,000 people at the convention center. And I asked people, I said, how many of you would love to be financially independent? And every hand went up, boom, immediately. And people are, you know, giggling and laughing, yeah, yeah. And then I said, how many of you are financially independent? And there was a handful of people with their hand left. And I said, what percentage of the population reaches financial independence? And it's less than 1%. So I said, so 99 to 100% of you had your hand up, but less than 1% actually obtain it. So that means that somehow 99% of you are either living in a delusion, or you are the 1% on the planet sitting in this room today. And I said, your hierarchy of values dictates your financial destiny. Because what you value most is what you're going to find money and spend on. And what you value least, you're not going to find money and not spend on it. So you're going to spend money. So if you have a higher value on buying immediate gratifying consumables that depreciate in value, and you have that as a higher value than buying assets that appreciate in value, financial independence is not going to happen. You're going to be working your life as a slave for money and never have it work for you as its master. So your hierarchy of values dictates your decisions and how you manage money and how you manage everything in life. So that's why it's so crucial to know what it is. And when people go through and do a value determination process, the stats show it. I've had 80,000 people go through the Breakthrough Experience, and I've had them do the value determination. And it's less than 1% that have wealth building up in the top 4 values.
Yeah.
So the reality is that people want the lifestyle of the rich and famous, and they want all kind of immediate gratifications, and they're because they're not congruent and they're not fulfilled, the unfulfillment makes them look for immediate gratifying behavior, a dopamine fix to get high. And so what happens is they're living vicariously through other people's brands instead of building a brand around their own life. And so as a result of it, they have this internal conflict. And so when they do their value determination, it's shocking sometimes, because the fantasy that they're holding on to, which is what makes them self-depreciate, because that's what a fantasy does, is all of a sudden hit, shocked, and grounded. And now you can set real goals that are congruent, that are in real time, that are objective, that you'll take actions in the executive center and strategically plan and go and make things happen. And your self-confidence, self-worth, your achievements all go up the second you're congruent.
You're right, it is shocking. It was shocking for me to actually look at that. But the flip side of that was that I was in a position to applaud myself because the values really demonstrated to me that I'm doing everything that I always wanted to do. But my mind was future orientated. So I was projecting my future values and went into slight shock mode. But I did not validate the efforts that I had made to get to the X marks the spot, which was displayed on that value list. So this is a roadmap, in a way, for a person.
Well, I think it's one of the most crucial things. The reason I put it on my website, and it's a complimentary thing that people can do, it takes about 30 minutes of their time, and it's 13 questions. How do you fill your space? Because things that are really, really, really valuable to you, you keep around you. And things that are not, you toss. If I gave you something that had zero value, the second I'm out the door, you put it in the trash, unless you have a friend that you think might use it. You don't know what to do with it. But things that are valuable to you, keep around. I have got a gift from one of my colleagues, and he gave me cufflinks that say love and wisdom on them.
Lovely.
Okay, that's what I'm dedicated to, love and wisdom.
Yes.
So those are important. They travel wherever I go. But I've also been given gifts that I don't know what to do with. I just have to toss them because I can't carry them around. I get a bottle of champagne given to me. I don't drink. So I leave it at a hotel or I find somebody to give it to. So things that are really, really valuable to you, you keep around you in your space. You spend time on them. You're organized around them. You are energized by them. You find money for those things. You think about it. You visualize it. You talk to yourself about it. You talk to other people about it. You're inspired by it. You have a goal to achieve something around it, and you like to learn about it. Those are signs that are objective signs that let you know what you really value. So unless you have an objective means to find out what your values are, you can just throw out their fantasies, like I want to be financially independent, like the people in the room. But that's not really what they valued. And when they grounded themselves, I said, now, if you really want to be financially independent, we need to move those up on your value list because you are not going to obtain it unless it's up on the top 4 of that list. I've interviewed thousands of people, and I've interviewed people that are extremely impoverished financially and extremely wealthy. And there's definitely a difference in the value structure.
John, how do you move a value up on the list? Because that confuses me a bit. Because the thing is, if I look at my list, even though I'm still projecting in the future, it still shocks me and brings me back to reality because the truth is I'm still aligned to that because those are the things that are still valuable to me. So how do you move a value up that you want to move up to develop yourself?
Well, anything you want to go up on a value list, you have to stack up benefits to. And anything you want to go down on a list, you stack up drawbacks to.
Okay.
So when the why is big enough, the house take care of themselves. When the benefits, every decision is based on what will give you the greatest advantage over disadvantage. So if you don't have enough advantages over doing the alternative compared to what you're doing right now, you'll keep doing the same thing. And that's what they say, insanity is expecting to do getting a different result, but doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So what happens is unless there's a shift in values, don't expect a shift in life. It's that simple. So what I do is I go in there and we find out what values they say they want. And then are you sure you're willing to do it? Because when a shift in value occurs, something else is now lower. And so what you may used to work out more, and maybe now you don't work out quite as much, or maybe you had time for socializing, or now you may not, because now you're focused on business more, or more economic drives. So there's a price to pay for a shift in values, but you have to decide what you want in life. And some people, when they're 40s or so and 50, they go, my God, I've never saved a penny in my life. And who's going to take care of me when I'm older? And then they have an identity shift and a shift in values. Identity crisis, midlife crisis, are identity shifts in values. That's what they are. And so if you stack up enough benefits, I can take any value and I can raise it up and make you actually now engaged in it. I do that. I get paid to do that, helping people change their values at times. But there's only 2 ways of having fulfillment. Either setting goals that match your highest values or changing your values to match your goals. They have to be congruent if you want to master your life.